We've dabbled very lightly in LinkedIn advertising. Something we probably want to dig more into, but organic is really posted from either the Anvil account or from my own personal account. Those have been doing really well. And in a lot of ways, I think posting frequently, posting organically, posting about things that are not necessarily about your business or just tangentially related really just drives engagement, drives awareness. People see your name, see Anvil out there. I think one of my most popular posts, it had like 20,000 impressions in a week or something like that, like was literally a post that I did when I was stuck in the elevator at work on a Sunday because I decided to swing by the office to do something. And then I got stuck in the elevator for 2 hours. So I was just like sitting there. I was like, what am I going to do? I guess I'll post on LinkedIn about this. It just drives a lot of engagement. And people, I like, you tag stuck in the elevator at Anvil, blah, blah, blah. And like, and that just, I think that helps. And it also makes it more human. I think you're not just a corporate face. You're an actual person out there that's just trying to build your business. So, yeah.
What was the post about being stuck in the elevator, or you were in the elevator while you were writing a post about something else?
The post was about being stuck in the elevator. Like I literally got stuck in the elevator, called the building, and they're like, we'll be there an hour, and like before dinner time. And my wife was downstairs in the car waiting for me. I was like, nope, I'm calling 911. Next thing I know, big shout out to the SF fire department. 3-4 brawny guys like break down the elevator door and I had to climb out in between floors. But that was pretty fun.
Yeah. It reminds me of what's the name of that book I was looking at the other, Storyworthy. Have you come across that book?
I have not. No.
Yeah. And I think the big takeaway that I got from that was, when somebody says, tell me a story, most of us freeze up, right? Because we think it's got to be like a story, like a fairy tale or something, with some, amazing, thing that's going to happen. And you realize that stories, like we experience stories every day of our lives. And these are little things. I mean, obviously, getting stuck in an elevator is probably a little bit more exciting. It depends how you look at it. But yeah, I think it was this idea of that, look, you just go through your day and you're having these experiences, you're learning things, you're discovering things. And those are all stories in terms of not just the thing that you learned or whatever, but how it happened, or some of the mistakes you made along the way. And I've been kind of trying to train myself as well in terms of do more of that, because I think that's what makes it more interesting, right? Because like it's so easy to write stuff which is like just like 99% of other content out there. And I think once you bring in your own personal stories, it makes it so much more real and authentic. And the other thing I would say is, like, one thing I've heard over and over from so many people who create content is the number of times, like, they'll create something which took them, I don't know, like 15 minutes because they were in a rush and they just wanted to publish something, and seeing it do really well. And then they do something else and they spend like 5 hours and perfecting it, and like they publish it and no one cares. And they're like, what? And it's like,
I think that's a great lesson in just, in a lot of company building. It's like, good enough, get it out there. Like the longer you wait, the more you try to perfect it. It's only perfection in your mind. You don't know if it's perfection in the user's mind. And the only way to get to that perfection in the user's mind is to let them play with it, right? Let them read it, let them touch it, feel it, whatever it is. I totally agree. I think that's a big lesson.
Have you done any outbound as well, or has it just all been inbound marketing in terms of getting customers?
We have done a little bit of outbound, and it's honestly kind of hit or miss. Outbound in the traditional sense of cold emailing, I'm pretty confident that just doesn't work anymore. I think early days when I was doing it manually, like I would test everything from, you know, my changing my name to be more English, more anglicized, right? And but I think like we're just all so inundated by emails these days that nobody really reads it, and more often than not, like for myself, it's very easy to filter out what's like a cold inbound email because they spell my name wrong, and that's a pretty great feature of my name. But I would say in terms of outbound, like in-person outbound, going to conferences, like inviting somebody to a dinner, those have worked much better for us. And fortunately for Anvil, our kind of like average contract sizes warrant that kind of interaction.
And so are there particular events that work well? Like, I guess the bigger lesson here is if you're doing in-person selling, that's great. And I do agree. I think, cold email is getting harder and harder because in in many ways there are so many tools out there that are making it easier to send crappy emails at scale. Right. And so you kind of eventually just get to a point where once you receive so much of this stuff, you just start to just tune out, and then it just becomes harder for everybody. I think in person is very different. Obviously, it's a lot harder. You can't sell to, you know, 100 people in an hour or something like that. It's about relationship building and getting to know people and stuff like that. But if somebody is in a kind of a situation today where they're saying, I really I feel like in-person selling is something I want to be doing. I feel like that would be a good way to move forward with my business. But how did you figure out which events to go or how to find these people? Like, what's the lesson there that I think maybe we can learn from you on that? Or did you just like go to any event and just like,
No, we were somewhat selective. I think early days pre-COVID, when we're still selling financial services, we went to like financial services event and didn't have much success there. And like, oh, wrote off. So we wrote off in-person events. Coming out of COVID, we had kind of changed who we're selling to. We're really selling to, again, like I mentioned earlier, the kind of like technical organizations that had some technical DNA in them. And the person was oftentimes a senior level engineering manager, product manager, the founder, somebody who has a vision of what they want to build and are looking for ways to build it faster. And so what we started going to were these kind of like industry specific tech events. So one of them that I went to was called Blueprint. It just happened in Vegas this year. Again, it's for technology companies building software in the built world. So real estate, property, stuff like that. There was another one called ITC that's huge. It's massive. I don't even think this is tech specific. It's just like everybody goes to it, but it's the insurance one. That one, all of the insurtech companies are there. And so for us, what we do, because we're not really selling to the attendees, we're selling to the people at the booths. We just buy a ticket and then we go walk around, and then you have like a cornered market. Like they can't leave their booth. They have to stay at the booth and you can just talk their ear off. And typically you can find a product manager or some kind of senior level technical person there because the booth isn't just salespeople. It's a bunch of people, and like senior leadership is there to like, really wine and dine their high value customers. So that has been great in terms of just building relationships. And a lot of times it becomes just like a longer term process. You build a relationship, you build the rapport, you help them with some of their problems that they might bring to you, and then maybe they'll buy Anvil down the road. But it is a little bit longer than kind of like a click in, put in your credit card kind of process.
that is a great insight. I had never thought about events in that way. Like even after having done almost 400 of these interviews, right? That whenever I think about events, I think about who are the people attending the events, or which events are your ideal customers going to. But what you just said there, I think is gold in terms of which events are your ideal customers selling at, right? Because you're right. I mean, that's another great way to target them and turn up and honestly, I think in many of these events, when when you're at a booth and most people are trying to go past and avoid making eye contact with you, right? Anyone who comes up and talks to you is like, great, they have that conversation. It's a great opportunity to get some face time with the right people.
It is. And it's interesting because, like, again, Anvil's really kind of one step removed from the consumer in most situations, right? Like, we sell to the person building something that they then resell. And so, it's not that we don't care about the end customer, it's that they're just not the buyer. They're not the ones spending money on Anvil. It's the B to B to C. We're selling to the second B, right?